Hello and welcome to Mission Backlog. Right, so I selected Amped Freestyle Snowboarding from my extensive backlog of games using a random number generator. It's been very nostalgic jumping back onto the original Xbox to play an early 2000s style extreme sports game. It's been bringing back memories of Tony Hawk's and SSX, and for those old enough to remember, 1080-degree snowboarding on the N64, a classic. So Amped is a freestyle snowboarding game released in 2001 and developed by Access Software and Xbox Game Studios, and it was exclusive to the Xbox. There have been two sequels since, Amped 2, also on the original Xbox, and Amped 3 on the Xbox 360. I own both of them, though I'm yet to play either of them, so I can't really compare. I think I've put around 10 hours into the game at this point, and should say that I haven't rolled credits, though I feel as if I've seen enough of the game to give a pretty well-rounded opinion. Straight off the bat, I would say that this game has a lot to offer, and I had a decent amount of fun during my playthrough, though there were also plenty of moments of frustration and a bit of a desire for more varied gameplay, and these things ultimately led me to not pushing through to the credits. Right then, so let's start with the gameplay. So the main focus of the game is freestyle snowboarding runs on large mountains, with the aim of performing tricks in the form of jumps and grinds to earn high scores. There's a decent variety of routes to tackle down various mountains, and each run is wide open, allowing for multiple routes and trick combinations, which offers a decent amount of replayability, I found. There's no other game modes, unfortunately, such as races, which I was a bit disappointed by. I do like the trick runs, though I do also enjoy downhill races, as seen in games such as SSX and other kind of downhill snowboarding games, and feel this offers a bit more variety and a different way of approaching each mountain route. Having said that, the developers obviously had a clear vision for what they wanted to achieve, which was a fairly realistic snowboarding game for snowboarding fans. With the technology they had available to them at the time, I would say that they did a pretty decent job of recreating the feel of descending a mountain and performing trips. You won't be unclipping your board and swinging it around your head like you can in other games. The tricks are all pretty grounded in reality, which can be a pro or a con depending on your preference. If you land a double backflip in this game, it feels like a big trick. It's not something you can just pull off over any little bump in the ground. The trick system is quite straightforward, with the A, X and Y buttons being various grabs in the air, with the triggers being kind of tweaks that you can add to these grabs. This works okay, though the fact that the A button is also the jump button can lead to some mistimed moves that lead to frustrating crashes or simply just not performing a trick at all and floundering in the air like a lemon. I think it would have been a better decision to keep A solely as the jump and speed button and change the third grab button to a different one, maybe the B button, just to make things a little cleaner. To perform a grind, you have to press the B button, either from the ground leading into the rail or in the air coming down onto a rail. Once on the rail, you can do nose or tail presses, spin or jump, and not much else. Though this does allow you to transition from rail to build some pretty impressive trick combos. So the actual fundamentals of performing tricks are simplistic in theory, though I found that a lot of the time it was actually quite difficult to pull them off, especially the grinds. You have to be extremely precise when landing on a rail. If you're half a metre to the side, you'll miss, and this leads to some rather frustrating moments when you're trying to transition from a jump into a rail, and more often than not end up crashing into the side of said rail and sprawled on the floor, thus ending the trick combo you had been building up that would have achieved the high score you needed to move on to the next mountain. All quite a frustrating moment. Jumps also have similar issues. I would often find that rather than soaring into the air like a majestic eagle, I would crumple over the lip of a jump as if I'd just been tasered in the back. I think this often comes from trying to press the trick button too quickly, so kind of user error, though I also swear that sometimes it would happen for no reason at all, just a quirky, rather annoying glitch of the game. So there is certainly a bit of jank going on, and pulling off high score combos is definitely more difficult than it is in other games. But glitches aside, that's also part of the appeal. If you manage to pull off a stalefish double backflip into a curved rail and a 360 off the end of the rail and nail the landing, it feels incredible. Even just nailing the landing of a simple 540 grab feels far more satisfying than in most other games. And I guess that's the more realistic nature of the game coming through that I think that the developers were going for. One of the things that I've realised after a little while is that the game wants you to pick your lines down the mountain, setting up for the big tricks, not trying to hit every little jump or box you come across on the way. The controls aren't set up for that, and I found I'd get smoother, better flowing and feeling runs if I spaced out my tricks. And more often than not, this actually led to a better score as well. In terms of the objectives of the game, your main objective is to work your way up the world rankings and become number 1 in the world. And new mountains will unlock at various milestones along the way. You earn ranking points for completing various activities on each mountain. The main one is simply earning high scores on each run, simple enough. During your runs there's also photographers, easily visible as bright red cameras floating in the air, and you'll get bonus points for performing trips in these specific locations, and there's also separate objectives for getting high scores from these specifically. As separate objectives, you'll also have sponsors to impress and pros to compete with. Impressing a sponsor involves kind of performing the kinds of tricks that that specific sponsor prefers during your run, with the aim of making them amped, so excited, when you cross the finish line. I found this to be the most frustrating game mode in the game, as if you bail towards the end of a run, it destroys your meter and you'll have to go all over again. I mean, this is mainly user error, but if you do get one of those kind of janky moments where you don't feel like you should have crashed, it does get fairly annoying. The pro game modes I found to be a lot more fun, and they involve following a pro down the mountain and performing tricks in the same locations that they do and trying to better their scores. So it's kind of like follow the leader. There is also a reward for exploration in the form of kind of snowmen that you can find around each of the different maps, and there's 8 I think hidden in each level, and if you find them you can destroy them, and if you find them all on a specific level you'll earn a world ranking point as well. So if I'm honest, I didn't really bother with this as I preferred kind of the trick aspect of the game, but they are there for those that want to go after them, and if you want to 100% the game obviously you need to go after them. Along with being rewarded with world ranking points, which will unlock the new maps, you'll also receive skill points which can be used to upgrade your character's stats, such as jump, spin, speed, etc. If you've ever played one of the Tony Hawk's games, you'll know exactly what to expect. I like this system, and it provides a tangible reward for progressing through the game, as you are able to perform tricks later on that just simply weren't possible at the beginning because you couldn't jump high enough or spin fast enough. And I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but there's also a character creator in the game, so you can create and then customize your player with different clothing, boards, kind of that kind of thing as you progress through your playthrough. And I did notice that these do have some stats, though as far as I could tell it was more kind of shifting around the stat points rather than outright adding a lot of stat points. I might be wrong on that point, I didn't really pay that much attention to it. And there probably is some more game-changing gear later on, kind of in endgame. I played on the original Xbox hardware, so I can't speak to playing on modern hardware via backwards compatibility, but as far as the original hardware goes, this game looks and plays really well. I was very pleasantly surprised with how the graphics hold up for a game that's now 22 years old. It looks great, with entire mountains being loaded in from the beginning, and decent lighting and a pretty decent art style as well. There's some games I go back to and play from that era and think, kind of, nah, this doesn't hold up, but this isn't one of them. It looks good. Performance-wise, it's great as well. It runs smoothly, aside from kind of the jank I mentioned around tricks sometimes, and that could well be user error if I'm honest. But I didn't experience any glitches or bugs to speak of. When you're in a run and everything's flowing, you're nailing your landings, this game looks and feels great. One of the best and most nostalgic aspects of this game is the music, which unfortunately I can't play here on YouTube. However, just know that there are over 150 music tracks in the game, with the entire One for the Kids album from Yellow Card in that soundtrack. So sure, not all of them are bangers, but you only need to press the white button and it skips any track that you don't like. I imagine for someone who played this game back in the day, this soundtrack probably would be as nostalgic for them as kind of Tony Hawk's 3 or Gran Turismo 3 soundtracks are to me. It's maybe not a soundtrack for everyone if you're not kind of from that era, if you don't have nostalgia, but for me, a 90s punk rock kid raised on Blink-182, Korn and Sum 41, this soundtrack hits the nostalgic sweet spot and is almost worth the price of admission on its own. Right, so this game has a lot to offer for sure, with some decent gameplay, great graphics, well-designed mountain runs and a brilliant soundtrack. However, there's no denying there are some frustrating moments which could put people off, and I'm not sure that this game is for everyone. But for me, the feeling of nailing a big trick or that pursuit of a perfect run outweighed the issues I have with the game and kept me coming back for more. So I'm going to give Amped Freestyle Snowboarding a 7 out of 10. I would say this is an essential game for any original Xbox collector, and probably worth a play via backwards compatibility if you've got a hankering for that early noughties extreme sports genre of game. So I hope you've enjoyed the review. If you have, please consider dropping a like and hitting the subscribe button. And I hope you all have a great day. Now on to the next one.